Good evening, folks. Deb Delapiana here, and this is your Shut the Fuck Up. You know, this is the first of two, okay? There'll be another one tomorrow morning because I just can't squeeze them all in 10 minutes. But we got some doozies tonight, so we're going to start with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's get right into it here. We have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who now is demanding safe spaces for conservatives after she was verbally attacked at a restaurant by a woman who she calls completely insane and out of control. And all of this just because she has a different political viewpoint. So Marjorie feels put upon, and she is demanding safe spaces because conservatives deserve it. Really. So let's talk about what Marjorie Taylor Greene has done. Before becoming a congresswoman in 2018 and 2019 on social media, Marjorie Taylor Greene advocated for the assassination of Nancy Pelosi. In addition, David Hogg, who is a Parkland school shooting survivor, had appointments at Congress with about 30 different Congress people after that shooting. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, before she was a congressman again, literally stalked him all on his path outside of the halls of Congress, screaming at him that, the way we could have solved this problem was to have armed guards at schools, because the one way to get rid of bad people with guns is to have good people with guns, the great hue and cry of the right wing. David Hogg maintained his cool and said absolutely nothing to her. He ignored her. And then she got on camera full face by herself after he went on his way and says that she doesn't understand how he got 30 appointments. She's a gun owner, and she didn't get any appointments. She got nothing. Well, that's because she wasn't a survivor of a school shooting. I mean, I don't know what Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't understand about any of this, but she can shut the fuck up on 2 counts. Number one, as a gun owner, she doesn't deserve an appointment in Congress. She did not survive a shooting. Number two, you do not go out there and whine and piss and moan about somebody who comes and yells at you in a restaurant when you have literally advocated for people's deaths and literally stalked a school shooting survivor on the grounds of Congress. Shut the fuck up. That's number one for tonight. Number two, Matt Schlapp. We've talked about him before. He is the head of the Conservative Political Action Conference, which, by the way, will probably deliver many more shut the fuck ups tomorrow. But it just ended today in Washington. It started on the 1st. It goes through the 4th. This is the 4th. So I'm sure there's a big finale of right-wing nitwits tonight in Washington. But Matt Schlapp banned somebody named Nick Fuentes. Now, I'm sure you've heard the name, and you should all be familiar with him. He is a right-wing white supremacist who literally believes that Jewish people should be driven out of the country, really actually advocates for a strictly white America. He's virulently anti-women. He's what we call an incel, an involuntary celibate. But according to him, he's a voluntary celibate because he's willing to give that up for the cause. Well, Matt Schlapp has banned Nicholas Fuentes from CPAC, and this is what Matt said. Matt said, his hateful racist rhetoric and actions are not consistent with the mission of CPAC. He's right. He's right, because the mission of CPAC is to disparage LGBT and transgender people. They're much more on that bent than they are what Nick Fuentes is on. But I'd also like to remind everybody that Matt Schlapp right now faces a mega lawsuit for groping the genitals of one of Herschel Walker's staffers during the election season in 2022. Let me repeat that. The man who heads the Conservative Political Action Conference, the family values people in the country, the right-wingers, the conservatives, they're the family values people. He is accused of having loose hands and going after someone's genitals. Can't make this up, folks. You just can't. Number 3, let's go back to Marjorie Taylor Greene again. So she's in this securing the borders, what do you want to call it, oversight committee. And she's talking about a woman named Rebecca Kiesling, who is a conservative activist. But she was actually, Kiesling was making an impassioned plea about her 2 sons, Caleb, who's 20, and Kyla, 18. Okay, they died on July 29th, 2020, taking fentanyl. All right, they died of fentanyl poisoning from taking pills that, according to her, they mistakenly believed were safer than pain pills. So Marjorie Taylor Greene says, and I'm going to read this to you. This is during the hearing. Listen to this mother who lost 2 children to fentanyl poisoning. Tell the truth about both of her sons' murders because of the Biden administration's refusal to secure our border and stop the cartels from murdering Americans every day by Chinese fentanyl. I'm not going to reread that to you. You actually heard it right. Actually, her sons died on July 19, 2020. Donald Trump was in office. Whatever fentanyl came over the border during Donald Trump's administration, not Joe Biden. Joe Biden was a private citizen on that date. And I'd like to also reiterate one other thing. The majority of fentanyl in this country is being trafficked by Americans for consumption by Americans. That it is not being trafficked by immigrants at the border. I have a report on that. All of this information, by the way, if you go to our YouTube channel, all of this printed information will be in the body of the video there. We can't put them in the videos on TikTok. And then let's close this one out. We got a couple of minutes left with another one of my favorites, Nikki Haley, who crawled out from under her rock long enough to announce her candidacy for the 2024 presidency. She's challenging Donald Trump. And she says that all politicians over 75 should take a neural competency test. You heard that. This is what I think. I think all candidates who come from below the Mason-Dixon line need to take that kind of test. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, let's look at who they are here. We have Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Rick Scott, Lady Lindsay. All of these people, they should have to take neural competency tests in order to run for public office, okay? Because they still haven't figured out that they lost the fucking war, okay? But then she goes on to say that wokeness, that favorite word of the Republicans, wokeness really pisses me off, is more dangerous than the pandemic. Well, Nikki, why don't you go tell the 1.13 million people, their families of the 1.13 million people who have died from COVID in the United States, why don't you go tell them that wokeness is more deadly than COVID-19? In fact, there were 574 more deaths in this country in the last 7 days. For the benefit of all those people out there who think COVID is over and is done with you, you might want to think again. Just because you're not one of the people dying doesn't mean it's gone. And just because everybody's declaring it's over publicly doesn't mean it is. And Nikki, maybe you want to address the families of the 6.88 million people worldwide who have died from COVID-19. You go tell them that being caring about your neighbors, your community, caring about other people, willing to make sacrifices for the common good, you go tell them that that is more dangerous than the disease. What was dangerous during the disease was Donald Trump's incredibly ignorant mishandling of this pandemic for political purposes. And that's all I've got right now. I will talk to you all tomorrow when we'll revisit more joy from the Republican Party.